The story is really one of resilience and of hope. And I want readers to think about the characters in this story who had such difficult circumstances. I mean, we have evil characters, dramatic scenes, but there is a heartwarming ending, an ending that speaks to the meaning of family.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day podcast. I'm so glad to have you here today. My name is Ruth Douthit, and I'm a best-selling author of books for middle grade readers and adults and women's contemporary, and now I'm writing suspense. And my current book, Fatal Truth, is out in the world right now. So go get your copy. It's book 3 in my Desert Shadows suspense series. And be sure to leave me a review. I would love to know what you think of this book. And head over to artbyruth.com today to sign up for my newsletter, because I have more upcoming books coming and I give away a free book every month. So be sure and sign up for my newsletter and you'll get a free downloadable copy of The Letter Opener. This is a suspense story, dual time, set partly in World War II Poland and then in 1980 Pennsylvania. And it is a suspense novella. So head over to artbyruth.com today. And if you like today's episode, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Spotify, and let me know what you think of today's episode. I think you're really going to like it. Okay, let's get started. Charlotte Whitney is with me today. She's an award-winning author who grew up on a farm in Michigan and spent much of her career working at the University of Michigan, including the prestigious Lloyd Scholars for Writing and the arts program there. And she is here with me today to talk about her newest book, A Tiny Piece of Blue. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to Charlotte talk about her new book. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm happy to have Charlotte Whitney with me today. Welcome to the podcast, Charlotte.
Thank you, Ruth. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, why don't you tell my listeners a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about your book.
All right. Well, I grew up on a farm, and this is going to come back later when I'm talking about the setting of my book. I attended a one-room country school, K through 8. I think I'm the only person in my generation that ever attended a country school. It was very unusual even back then. And the school had no library, didn't have an encyclopedia. The only books it had was 5 copies of the Boxcar Children. So I wasn't originally focused on reading and particularly not writing. And I was on this small family farm, mom and dad, an older sister. We only had 2 books in our house, a dictionary and a King James Bible. So again, reading and writing was really not reinforced at home or at school. About 5th grade, my mom took me to the town public library, and it was like, oh, brave new world. It was absolutely wonderful finding all of these books that I could check out for free. I didn't get to go there as much as I wanted because it was too far away to bike to. I needed a parent to take me there. But fast forward, I was an English major in college, went on to grad school, continued in English, and I was at University of Michigan, and I married a psychology professor there, which meant that I was staying in Ann Arbor. So I worked at the University of Michigan almost my entire career. I retired from a position as a director of a living learning program that focused on writing and the arts. And if the listeners don't know, learning living learning program is like an honors college where students live in a residence hall, take a few classes there, and really form a community, do participate in writing journal and other writing and artistic events. So that's my early years in a nutshell.
Wow. And I was like you, I just loved the library. Just walking in there was so exciting. The smell of books and just being around all these books and having them all there for you to look at. And even to this day, I love browsing through the library. Oh, it's just so
Uh,
much fun.
Absolutely. I dedicated the book that I'm going to be talking about to librarians, and we'll get into that later. But I was the writer in residence at my town public library 3 years ago, the Tempe Public Library here in Tempe, Arizona. And I found out so many things that the library was doing in terms of community outreach, well beyond having paper books and ebooks ready for people to take out. So I have high regards for public libraries.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, that is a fascinating life story. So let's talk about your book, A Tiny Piece of Blue. Tell us about this story and your inspiration for it.
Sure. It's a story of a 13-year-old girl named Philstis. Strange name. I'll tell you about that later. She finds herself homeless after a devastating house fire. She wants to live with her 4-H leader who's teaching her how to sew, a farmer that lives close by in the neighborhood. But the 4-H leader is married to a grouchy old curmudgeonly man named Vernon, and he just doesn't want to have any kids in his house, even though they have an extra bedroom and could actually be there. So the story is told through three voices: that of Silstis, the 13-year-old girl, Edna, who is the 4-H leader, elderly, never had any kids of her own, and Vernon, her grouchy old husband. It sounds like, oh, there's not much story here, but there are a lot of sinister, evil kinds of things, characters, child trafficking going on in the background, and that's always a threat.
Mm.
The setting is in the farmlands of the Midwest, so it's a little bit different than most settings. We have scenes in the barn, in the farmhouse, at 4-H meetings. As I mentioned earlier, the local public library is where Celestis and her sister go for refuge, and the county fair plays a really big role in a dramatic setting. At the end, there's lots of surprises, lots of twists and turns. The book that I wrote directly before A Tiny Piece of Blue is a mystery. So I really worked hard on learning how to put surprises in books, and
Mm.
readers tend to like that. All of a sudden you're thinking, oh, I'm getting bored, and boom, something different happens. So that's kind of basically what it is.
Wow, that's interesting. And set in 1934. So what made you want to set it during the Great Depression?
When I was about 12 or 13 years old, I asked my grandma what it was like during the Depression. I don't know how I happened to even think about it or know about that. And I expected her to say, well, we had it better than so many other people. I expected her to say, we had a garden, we grew food, we had cows, so we had dairy products, we had a beef steer, so we were eating meat. Uh, she didn't say that. She said, and she was a very generous person. She said, our family was so extremely lucky. We only went hungry for 1 year when
Wow.
other people were going hungry for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And that really just touched me. Even as a 12-year-old, I had never gone hungry. I never realized how poor we were living on a farm, but I knew that we had all of this food that my mom put up in cans and freezing and preserving that was down in the cellar of our old farmhouse. Never had to worry about the next meal. And I just couldn't believe that people went hungry for that long. And my mom, who was about 12 years old during the Depression, and her little sister, who was 4, 5, 6 during the Depression, don't we really remember being hungry. Their older sister, who was 14, 15, 16, definitely did. So what they I inferred and got out of them is that they fed the children, but mom, dad, and oldest girl went to bed hungry every night. They
Mm.
um, they tried to make sure that the little ones had enough to eat. Um, a really devastating time, and it was easier on farms because at least in the Midwest, or the portion of the country that wasn't having these devastating wind and dust bowl
Yeah, the Dust
storms.
Bowl. Yeah.
Um, but people were losing their farms right and left because anybody who was young and had a big mortgage um, usually lost their farm.
Yeah.
Both of my sets of grandparents who were farmers in Calhoun County, Michigan, didn't lose their farms, and that was because they were a little bit older and really just had to worry about making enough money to pay the taxes because
Yeah.
they'd paid for their farms. If they hadn't, they would have lost them.
Yeah. So that is part of the reason why you wanted to set it during that era.
Absolutely, because there are some wonderful books set during the Great Depression, but these days World War II takes over, and the Depression was an interesting time in that it really forced people to come together as a community. And you see that in the book, A Tiny Piece of Blue. You see particular institutions, the little one room country church. I mentioned the school before, the library, the, the, um, the neighbors coming
Mhm.
together to help each other. And I think we need to be, all of us need to be reminded that community is so important in our lives.
That's true. And so you also talk about Silstis. Where did you get that name from?
I love choosing names. Silstis was her mother what had her, she had the baby Celsius on the winter solstice, and she
Oh,
didn't know that. And the nurse told her, it was actually the midwife who told her, well, this is the winter solstice. She misunderstood, and so she named her baby Silstis.
ah,
The difficulty that Silstis has is everybody calls her silly, and as she's becoming 13, 14, coming of age, she does not want to be called silly anymore. And she finds herself in this devastating circumstance where she doesn't have a home. Her parents pretty much abandon her, telling her that she's old enough to fend for herself, things were a little bit different back in the
Hmm.
1930s. And she finds herself uh, in a situation where she has to take agency of her own life. And silly is just not a good name for her. So
Yeah.
she's very demanding with the characters in the book that at some point that she be called Silstis instead of silly. I
Yeah.
love to play around with names. The names of the two other characters who are narrating, Edna and Vernon, the farmer and farmer's wife. I originally named Edna Irma, but when I was thinking about them, Edna, Irma and Vernon, and they came out Vermin. And these are nice people, despite the old farmers being grouchy and crotchety. He's got an inner core that is loving and compassionate. It just needs to be mined. So I knew I couldn't keep the name Irma because vermin. If people put it to compressed it like I did, I just didn't want that to happen. So I renamed Irma. She became Edna.
Oh, okay. Now you handle quite a controversial topic of let me try that again, of child trafficking, which was a serious problem back then because, like you said, a lot of families abandoned their children or even sold their children, and some of these children were purchased to work the farms. It sounds like, okay, good old-fashioned hard work, but no, a lot of them were pretty much held as slaves, slave labor. So, what made you want to tackle such a, dark issue like that?
Well, I think people think about the Great Depression and just think about being homeless and hungry. And unfortunately, for some children, it was much, much worse than that. And we still have child trafficking today. And I think it's
Hmm.
easy. We get in our very cushy lives, and it's easy not to pay attention to
Hmm.
that. And I go out and talk to book clubs, and that's a subject that people bring up and are thinking about. I just got back a couple of days ago from a trip, a vacation, and in the airport bathrooms, there were all the signs in the stalls, if you are and not safe, here's a number to call. And, it just brings it to the forefront. It's and the difficulty in researching this book is there not good statistics on how much of this was happening. Boys, young men, were leaving home to ride trains for fun and adventure, and I've talked to a lot of people who had said, "Yeah, it was." One less mouth for my parents to feed, and I had a good time, ran into some dicey situations, but overall, I learned how to grow up. Well, that I'm glad to hear those stories. Some of the stories I didn't hear didn't have such happy endings.
Hmm.
So, so that's tricky. And as I was saying, there aren't really good stats on it. Long before computers and law enforcement was dealing with issues that were presenting them right then and there, not children that were hit off in factories working against their will or working just for food. Uh, so, yeah, I wanted to make sure that people understood that when the Depression ended, some of these sinister happenings did not come to an end. I like to think that we are more aware of what's going on now and have many more resources to deal with it. But it was hard. Now, I would also say that on the train riders in an earlier book. I had a scene with train riders coming to the house, and in my grandparents' house, my mom was the person who, when train riders knocked on the door, and asked for a bite to eat, it was her job to go down, and they called it the cellar rather than a basement because it wasn't a finished basement. She went down to the cellar and got a crock pot of beans, cold and congealed, but it was food and it had protein, and cut stale bread and made each of the train riders a bean sandwich, for which they were very grateful. And so my mom did see a lot of train riders that were uh, decent young men who simply had nowhere to go and nothing to eat. So,
Yeah.
and we're trying to make the best of the situation. Uh,
Mm.
and when my grandparents were out of navy beans, my mom would make them a sugar sandwich, which was
Oh,
just homemade bread, butter, and sugar sprinkled in it.
oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah, and
Well, that's funny. Uh-huh.
well, I always wondered how they found my grandparents' farm because my grandparents probably lived, oh, maybe 6 to 8 miles from the closest train station.
Mm.
And then in doing my research, I found out that the train riders, they called them hobos and all other kinds of names back then, they would make maps showing which farms would give out food, and so I'm and they also made on fence posts and gates. They would also carve little things, signs in that indicated who where to go for something to eat. So I guess it wasn't that much of a surprise that they were getting knocks on the door asking for bites to eat.
Well, so what are some of the takeaways you want readers to have when they read A Tiny Piece of Blue? What do you want them to take away from this story?
The story is really one of resilience and of hope. All of us have down periods, black periods in our lives. And I want readers to think about the characters in this story who had such difficult circumstances. I mean, we have evil characters, dramatic scenes, harrowing at times, but there is a heartwarming ending, an ending that speaks to the meaning of family, community, and love.
Mm.
And those are the general themes that come out of the book. Now, each reader coming to the book has his or her own background, and some things are going to resound more than others. But those are the ones that I keep hearing as I get reviews from readers, as I go out to book clubs, as I get emails from readers, and I love to get emails and hear from them that they are taking away from from this particular book. Uh,
Oh.
it also has a theme of what authors call found, FOUND, family, which means
Mhm.
that you can find your community, and it doesn't have to be the family that you're born into. And I've known people who have created their own families that in this way. So I think it's a very, very important concept for people
Yeah, there were a
to
lot of
think
those
about.
back then, right? There were so many back
Oh,
then.
oh, absolutely, absolutely, because there were no safety nets.
Yeah.
Roosevelt didn't put in a lot of the programs until just a few years later, and so there just there weren't safety nets. If your family couldn't take you than usually extended family did. And if they couldn't, you tried to find someone within your church. But in this situation of with Silstis, she had Edna working to try to find a wonderful home for her, but it fell on deaf ears. And I'm not going to say too much. I don't want to give away too much of the story here.
Well, listeners, A Tiny Piece of Blue is available right now. So head over to Amazon and get your copy and leave Charlotte a review. She loves to know what you think of the story. And you have a website, charlottewhitney.com. And so folks head over to there too, and you can learn more about Charlotte. And do you have a newsletter that they can sign up for?
Absolutely. It's a free newsletter. And you're not bombarded every week or every month. It comes out every 3 or 4 months.
Okay. Wonderful. And you can see her other books there and learn more about her and listen to other podcasts and video interviews that she's had. Wonderful. So head over to charlottewhitney.com and contact Charlotte and let her know what you think of her books. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been wonderful. What an incredible story, and best of luck on this and your future endeavors. It's just been such a treat listening to you. Thanks, Charlotte, for coming today.
Thank you, Ruth. I really appreciate it.
Wow, wasn't that exciting to listen to Charlotte talk about her novel, A Tiny Piece of Blue, set during the Great Depression. And it just sounds like she did so much extensive research. Sounds like an incredible story filled with history, a little bit of mystery and suspense in there too. So make sure you get your copy of A Tiny Piece of Blue over at Amazon today. This is an award-winning novel. I think you're going to enjoy it. And then head over to charlottewhitney.com to learn more about her. And drop her a line, let her know what you think of her books. I hope that you've been encouraged by Charlotte's story about how she always loved books, and that led to writing and being a resident writer at the Tempe Library. That's amazing. It inspires me, makes me want to go and start writing. So be encouraged, be inspired, and motivated to try and write something every day. Whether you're marketing your book or writing your book, you're doing something with writing every day. So be proud of yourself and keep going, because like I always say, someone out there needs to read your story. And you know what? It just might be you. And until next time, thanks for joining me. God bless.